Welcome back to the channel. Got my 2003 Ford Focus SVT back in the garage, and I got a bad driver's side CV axle boot, so I'm going to be replacing that today. As always, safety first. Go ahead and block your rear wheels. Then go ahead and take your jack, go under the pinch weld here. Then of course your jack stand. Next, remove your wheel, 19mm. Okay, and as you guys can see, I got a boot on my CV shaft that's failing me, starting to fling grease everywhere. So I'm going to replace that whole shaft there. Okay, and I'm going to take some PB Blaster and just spray right here on the strut. Then grab your impact, and this is going to be a 32mm. Go ahead and loosen that. If you don't have an impact, you could always have somebody step on the brake for you, and then just use a normal breaker bar to break this loose. Okay, and then with your nut removed, there is a thrust washer behind that nut. So if you can't get it, just take a magnet, get it out like that. And then go ahead and turn your rotor. So that'll give us better access to the tie rod end here. Go ahead and take your lock nut off your tie rod end here. It's going to be a 15mm. Then take your mini sledge. We're going to hit right here to separate the tie rod from the steering knuckle. Just like that. And pull this off the rest of the way. And if that keeps turning on you, you can take a 5mm Allen head, stick that in, and hold it while you loosen that up. And you get that out of the way. Then you go ahead and turn your wheel again, back the other way, and undo this brake hose here from the strut. And that just pulls out on here. Okay, so next I'm going to undo this 15mm bolt that connects our strut to our knuckle here. And then go ahead and undo your ABS sensor from that as well. And now I'm hoping that we can just hit on this with a hammer, and this will kind of flip down and we'll have enough room to pull that CV axle out of the steering knuckle here. So let's give that a shot. So yeah, just hit on this. A little more. Okay, and as you can see, that's separated from there. And then we can move around if we need to. And just watch your brake line and this ABS sensor as well as you're doing this. But that should give us enough room to hopefully pull this out of here. Okay, and then go ahead and turn it. And push in a little bit on your CV axle. But also push down on this, and you want to get this knuckle past the strut here. Just like that. And then pull your shaft out. And like I said, just watch your ABS line here and your brake line. Don't want to put too much stress on that. Alright, so coming onto the vehicle here, you can see where the CV axle goes into the transmission here. We're gonna have to pry that out of there. And what I'm gonna use is just a pry bar. And let's see if we can just pry this out of here real quick. You just want to pry up against the transmission there and see how it popped out of there. So just pry a little more and we'll be able to remove it here. So go ahead and try and pry a little more on that. Get it to come out while holding the other end. Get a longer pry bar. And if for some reason, guys, you can't get this to pop out, I know it can be a challenge on some of these Focuses, but you just take your pry bar and then beat on your pry bar with a hammer. Just try not to destroy the seal in here, but that should pop it out. So let me go a little more with this. And just like that, pops out of there. And then I'll show you what it looks like here. So that's what that looks like going in there. And since I got this jacked up just on the driver's side here, it's really keeping the fluid in there, so you shouldn't have to use a drip pan if you got it jacked up like I do. Okay, and then just compare your new axle to your old one. Just make sure they're the same length and everything, and we'll go ahead and put this in. Alright, so just like removal, take your new one and go ahead and stick it in there. And you may have to turn it a few times to get them splines to line up just right. Turn it and pull out. And then slide in just like that. And just kind of move it, wiggle it around maybe a little bit. Try to get it in there a little more. And then for the rest of the way, we'll use a hammer and pound on the end here, and that should push it in the rest of the way. So with that most of the way in, we can go ahead and put our half shaft back through our steering knuckle here. So bring that over and get those splines lined up as well. Get that through. With that in, let's get our strut mount back in our steering knuckle here. Push down, over, and then we have to move this around a little bit. Just like that, and now I can pound up. I just want to show you guys too, as you're doing that, you want to make sure this back side of the strut here goes in between the knuckle here. So this piece here needs to go in between there. So just be sure the strut's the right way as you're shoving the knuckle up into the strut here. So now I'll go ahead and beat on this a little more, and we'll get that to all the way up there. Hit on it right here. And it looks like we need to go up just a little more. Okay, so once you get the knuckle back in the strut, go and take your axle nut, screw that on a little ways, and then take a soft mallet or hammer and then just hit on that nut just a little bit, and then let's go under and see. Okay, so back underneath here, you can see from hitting that axle nut just a little bit, it pushed it the rest of the way up in the transmission. So we should be good down here. Then you grab your tie rod, stick your tie rod back in. And again, that's turning on me, so I have to use my Allen, keep that from turning. And then just get it tight, somewhat tight, and I'll grab my torque wrench. Okay, and the torque for your tie rod end nut is going to be 35 foot-pounds. Then you go ahead and take your bolt and put it back in for your strut to your knuckle here. Again, that's 15 millimeter. Okay, and the torque for that's going to be 66 foot-pounds. And then go ahead and put your brake line holder back on the strut here. And same with your ABS line. And then go ahead and take your thrust washer, put that back on, and then your axle nut. And I just get that as tight as I can by hand, and then I'll lower the vehicle with the weight on it, and I'll torque it down after that. So go ahead and grab your wheel, and you want to pull your center cap off. And then go ahead and throw your wheel on. Then grab your jack. Okay, so now we go ahead and tighten our CV half shop axle nut. That's going to be 233 foot-pounds. Then go ahead and do your wheel lug nuts. And those are going to be 85 foot-pounds. Then grab your center cap. Alright, so that concludes today's video. Again, 2003 Ford Focus SVT, and I replaced the driver's side CV axle. And like always guys, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.